Welcome to this updated feature video of the 777-8X. Let's go right into it. So I replaced the actuator inside the hinge of the landing gear with an air brake on the outside that has same vessel interaction that pushes it against this MK0 liquid fuselage, which also has same vessel interaction, and this then is a freely moving hinge which is reinforced by ball bearings, which I'll make a separate video about, showcasing the updates about the craft, what has changed since the last time. So basically now the air brake pushes the landing gears in rather than the robotic hinge itself, making it much stronger, as the air brakes don't have the issue of like wobbliness, because they don't have an actual like torque limit. They are just like animated to move that way. There's like according to the game's code, it basically has infinite torque. The only problem with it being it still is KSP, so there's joint physics, so even the air brake has its limits in terms of what it can actually like actuate, because at some point it will just like move itself rather than moving something else by its own force, by animating. But as you can see, it works very well. Here you can see the air brake, and it's a lot more smooth than the robotic hinge that pushed it before, and it also goes flush with the wing now and doesn't sag as much as it did before. Practically not at all. There's still a little bit after retraction, but that quickly cancels out. So it's actually not even that like I suspected it would be very noticeable in flight without the air brakes, but with it it's actually very okay. Not much problems at all. In fact, no problems at all. Only problem being you don't really have the space to fit in an extra air brake on the top, as it would interact with this air brake that has a negative deploy angle that reinforces the gear from the rear. So I can't have a gear that manually pushes it down, so it will have to be gravity actuated to deploy. But once it's deployed, it can go upside down because there's a reinforcing air brake at the back, which makes it unable to like retract in. But the actual extending has to be done by gravity. Then inside the flaps, I've put a control surface, which I'll also show a picture of, and it basically actuates same vessel interaction, wing control surface at the bottom, and the robotic hinge that holds the entire flap piece at the top to actuate it up and down. And then there's a guiding robotic hinge at the tip of the wing, so that it doesn't sag down below, because we all know how wobbly the robotics are. And this is realistic too, because it has multiple mounting points. As you can see, there's an unmotorized robotic hinge just flapping about. There's planned to be 2 more here and there, and there's only one over here right now, and it's supposed to be also strutted to this, so that it's more of a rigid structure. They don't actually actuate, only the inner one actuates the flaps, but they serve as like reinforcements. And this is what the flap extension looks like. Pretty smooth, if you ask me. It's still a little bit wobbly, but less wobbly than robotics would be. I still need to add a second actuator just beside the first one, because during flight there's a lot more drag, and that means that the fat control surface is actually not strong enough to keep the flaps extended, but 2 should do the trick. So yeah, that's coming up. And then finally the wing tips, nothing has really changed about them. They're still the same, you know, they deploy and retract. This is still just a robotic hinge. I didn't see the need to make this with any reinforcement either. First of all, because it doesn't really fit without it being very obvious, and kind of immersion ruins the immersion. Secondly, because it doesn't really need it. It stays extended just fine. in flight as well, so there's not too many issues with that. Finally, these are the indicators of where the nose landing gear would be roughly, and I made this ring segment, which is kind of the fairing of the nose kind of clipping, but this is just temporary. But these rings, I have to make them because otherwise I can't make a cutout in here, because fairings don't allow that. I wish they did, that would make it so much easier, but they don't, so I have to do this. That's also why there's these control surfaces over here, because there's a hole at the bottom, so I couldn't use a fairing. So yeah, these bottom two rows will actuate out as the landing gear, like nose landing gear bay, and I'll have to make the nose landing gear. They'll probably use air brakes as well, because they're very strong and rigid. Let me just showcase to you how the rear air brake also reinforces the landing gear after it's extended, so that the landing gear doesn't basically fold in on itself backwards when it's under load. The gears still don't work, unfortunately, and that is because wheels are wheels in KSP, and there's not much I can do about that except tweak around with the suspension a lot and hope that works. It should work in theory, but then again, it's still wheels, so it might never work, which would be sad, but at least, you know, the proof of concept is there. The landing gears itself without the wheels are actually able to hold up the plane now. Still not as much weight as I wanted it to be, because it can't actually hold up as much as the real maximum takeoff weight would be. But I would say it's good enough. It's a lot better than it was before. So yeah, as you can see, these have a negative deploy angle. You can see the mounting point over here, and that it's this over here, and that you can see it's negatively deployed on a negative angle. And so this has same vessel interaction and then pushes against the same fuel tank. Yeah, and so that it can't move back that much. That's really all there is to update you about. Oh yeah, also I made the nose and the tail section. Yeah, that's not too big of a change, and also the vertical stabilizer and horizontal stabilizer, which are temporary. They're just to allow for some aerodynamic testing in flight, which have been conducted and have returned mixed results. Some are positive, some are negative, so I now know about a few things I need to work on, which I didn't know about before, but it also confirms some of my worries, or rather it confirms some of my things that I was worried about, which means I no longer have to worry about them, because it's confirmed to be working, which is nice. So yes, I guess that concludes this update video. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.